Council, May 11th, to order. Mrs. Hoffman, if you could please take roll.
Miss Elmore, Mr. Cahill, Miss Kyle, Mr. Skidmore, Mr. Hermes, Miss Cahill, Mr. Meyer,
Here.
Miss Skidmore, Miss Nicely,
Here.
Mr. Nipper,
Here.
Miss Reckers,
Here.
Miss Jasper.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum. We'll go ahead and get started with discussion of the waste collection. Mr. Kramer?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I've provided the sheet to all council and all the options that were provided. I don't know if anybody has any further questions or would like to just start discussing their choices. At the end of the meeting, the municipal order will just be to authorize the mayor to enter into a contract with either Republic or Rumpke. Yes, Vicki? Yes, so Rumpke does have a fuel fee, and that's the only document I didn't pull up right now. But their fee, it was in our email. It was, if it went over, hang on a second. Thank you. Their fees start at $3.01 for diesel fuel and up. So the breakdown is $3.01 to $3.25 would be 12 cents a week increased for services. And then it goes up from there up to, I mean, realistically, I think the highest would probably be, if it gets to 4 gallons, and that would be 48 cents a week would be the increase. For Republic Services, they don't start their fuel until $4 and above. At $4, it is pretty significant, but you know, through their records, they're not, or I guess from their estimates, they're not expecting it to get to $4 during this period. Yeah, the contracts are only 2 years, and then with a 2-year extension. That's correct, isn't it, Sherry? Sorry. So that's what was in the bid packet. No, the figures are locked in for the first line on the summary page is for the first year or first 2 years, and then the second line would be if we did an extension, which we're able to do an extension, then that would be year 3 and 4, and then all the way out to 10 years total. So which package was your recommendation, the basic and voluntary recycling with Republic Services? Okay. council members? Yes. No, Jennifer?
I really struggled with this because I really want to support the mandatory included recycling, but I am going to support the Rumpke plan with trash and voluntary recycling because I like that their recycling prices are much lower than Republic's, and I know that there are a lot of residents who choose to recycle on their own. I realize that we don't have a huge participation in recycling, and I feel that having a lower cost for recycling will encourage more people to recycle, and then maybe we could revisit including recycling in the future. But I'm choosing the Rumpke basic and voluntary recycling.
Okay, thank you. Gary?
Yeah, my comments were going to be similar to Ms. Kyle's, that, I'm supportive of that, which has the most benefit to the largest number of residents, which does get us at, basic and voluntary recycling, but I'm in favor of that biweekly recycling, voluntary recycling being the cheapest cost on the trash portion beginning at $14.35. And, as I'm looking at the numbers, even if that were the case, then we're still going to see almost a 40% increase in our trash cost for those that are just using trash, which I think is a big jump. And then as we start to look at the other ones, they do start to, ratchet up from there. But
Okay, so your recommendation is basic and biweekly voluntary with Republic Services getting the contract?
yes, and that's because it is the lowest cost for the majority of those using service.
Okay. Rebecca?
I'm going to echo Ms. Jasper. I would love to see an increase in recycling in our city voluntarily, and then revisit in a few years to see what the percentage increase is in utilization. There's a substantial cost decrease to those who do recycle, and it could offer an opportunity that may have previously been a barrier for people to recycle. So I would recommend or like to pursue the Rumpke option for recycling and trash, voluntary, weekly. Additionally, I don't think that we are really taking, it is cheaper by 30 cents, 20 cents, right? And that we're assuming the price of diesel is not going to go over $4. Is that correct?
That's an email we got from Republic Services that their expectation for the contract.
And what's the weekly increase to the residents should it go over $4 a gallon?
Sherry, I'm assuming this percentage is percentage of the monthly bill? I thought it was here, right? Wouldn't it be if it goes there?
They highlighted this one.
I don't know why they highlighted that one.
Yeah.
It would increase, at $4 a gallon, Republic Services would increase 20%, 20.25% monthly.
Of the total overall rate, or just the fuel charge, or what
That would-
number?
Yeah, the fuel charge would be 20.25% of the monthly rate. Is that accurate?
And we're bound to a 2-year contract? So we're assuming fuel is not going to go over $4?
Correct.
I think it's an aggressive assumption, in my opinion.
That's their assumption.
Okay. I think it's a little aggressive, in my opinion. I'd stick with my recommendation to go with the Rumpke.
And additionally, Republic Services said they would update this yearly, this fee, so this could go up or down every year during the contract. Okay, so Ms. Reckers, I've got you as Rumpke as the provider with basic and voluntary.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other council can? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Nicely.
I think I have to go along with what Ms. Kyle, Mr. Meyer had mentioned. I think I would like to stick with Republic. I think I'll support that. My only concern is, I know there's been some issues with customer service. I hope it gets a little better.
So which option? Because Ms. Kyle and Mr. Meyer had two different options. Ms. Kyle said she wanted Republic Services, basic and voluntary. Mr. Meyer said Republic Services, biweekly voluntary recycling. So those are the two. Sorry. Basic and biweekly recycling with Republic would be $14.35 for trash and $6.50 for recycling. I'm sorry. Yes, that's right. $14.35 for trash, and then it'd be $15.10 for weekly recycling. What's that?
I'm going to have to think just a minute on
That's
which
fine.
option.
Renee, did you have a? What's that?
Did I have that look on my face?
No, but
Oh.
you were the next in line, so.
Well, is there any way that we can just, like, wipe out on the board over there the ones that we know we don't want? Just eliminate the ones that we know we don't want?
I don't know which ones we don't want right now, but,
Well, I don't want anything that says mandatory. I worked for the post office for 40 years, and I'd be standing at the clock, and to clock out, and they'd say mandatory overtime, go back to work. So I hate the word mandatory.
okay, I think this is. Probably covers everything for basic and voluntary, and then basic and biweekly voluntary recycling. So those are all the options there. Becky, do you have a question?
I have another comment. I just looked at the basic and bi-weekly for health services, and I'm beginning to think maybe that might be a better option.
Okay.
So give that a try.
Okay. Yes, Rebecca?
just so that I understand this, in the event that fuel goes over $4 with Republic, 20% of the monthly rate that our residents pay, which is 26 and change, will be charged, which is $5 a month.
Correct.
Diesel is $3.11 right now, and it's May, of a 2-year contract. I just
Correct.
want to make sure everyone understands. We're looking at a potential increase of $5 a month to every one of our trash receiving residents in Erlanger if we stay with Republic.
Yes,
Is that-
if-
I just want to make sure I fully understand that,
if
and then
the
everyone,
fuel- Yeah, if the fuel goes to $4
if the fuel.
or higher,
Or higher,
yeah.
a minimum of $5.
In addition to the increase in the recycling costs.
Steve?
Yeah, I think, after looking at everything, I think the Rumpke basic and biweekly voluntary is my choice.
You said Rumpke,
Mm-hmm.
basic and biweekly?
Biweekly voluntary for the recycling. Most of it has to do with the fuel costs, which I agree would be counterproductive of what we're trying to do, but also for customer service stuff. I would rather see what Rumpke could, offers for the 2 years.
Okay.
And Matt, that was a 20% and not 20 cent per week?
Correct. 22, or 20.25% where it would start. Rumpke had it as cents, starting at $3.01 for diesel fuel. Yes, ma'am, Jennifer?
I apologize, I'm going to amend my vote slightly. I'm going to amend mine to basic and biweekly voluntary recycling with Rumpke, solely based on the cost. I feel like maybe we get a little bit more buy-in, again, with the recycling, lower cost, just biweekly, and I just like that the fuel surcharge is going to stay the same. The cost of the fuel makes me a little bit nervous.
Yeah, so just make sure everybody's clear. There is still a fuel charge for Rumpke. It's just a lot lower. Okay. Just want to make sure everybody's aware. Still got Don. Do you have?
I don't understand the numbers they got down there for Better Business. How do they calculate them numbers? On the complaints?
I'm not sure how Nyoka found that, and I'm not sure how she went to their site, but I don't know how they come up with that.
Yeah, and is that the, well, I don't know how that.
Yeah, my assumption would be that the Better Business Bureau was contacted directly with complaints.
So that's that many calls they've had basically on each one of them? Oh, I don't know. I like the Rumpke biweekly voluntary because what few people do want to recycle will have the opportunity to do it if they want to.
Okay.
One more question about the fuel surcharge
Yes, sir.
on the, I guess it's the Rumpke. That's the cents per week?
Correct.
And is that per service or is that total? So am I paying 12 cents for trash, 12 cents for recycling? Or is it 12 cents for all service?
Is it for all service or each?
Okay. So at $4 or so at $4, that's a cent.
So this won't change
Okay.
every month. It'll be just 1 year. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, gotcha.
I don't know if Republic had any clarifications on their rates. I wanted to make sure that we're given And it is the 20%. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Renee and Diana, do you guys have a,
I have to change my way of thinking too. I believe that I think I want to go with basic biweekly voluntary recycling with Rumpke.
did you say Rumpke or Republic? Okay. Renee?
Yes, sir.
Have you selected?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and put everybody's up on the screen here, so that might be easier for all of us to kind of see what our consensus is. And if you can verify the accuracy of my I'm getting there. And Ms. Kyle, just to confirm, since you can't see my screen, you said Republic as the vendor, basic and bi-weekly recycling. Okay, just wanted to double check.
Matt, for the record, my last name's spelled wrong up there.
I'm sorry. I was doing that very quickly, I apologize. Oh, I'm typing on the wrong computer. Is that right? One more time, I'm sorry. Okay. I was going to say, I didn't think it was too easy. Okay, gotcha. Sorry.
Excuse me, Matt. I think mine was basic biweekly voluntary on the recycling.
Yeah, they're all voluntary.
Okay,
This one's just different because it's not bi-weekly.
okay.
Sorry. Spelling was not my strong point in school.
what was the difference in the biweekly, voluntary, and just every time, and then just every time the garbage truck went through? That makes sense?
What's the difference between which ones?
Between biweekly voluntary recycling and voluntary recycling every week.
Okay, so these are both of them right here.
The trash costs are the same for Rumpke on both of them.
Okay, so the trash stayed the same, pretty much, right?
I'll just, sorry, I just gave you mine. The trash stayed the same on Rumpke.
Yes, the only thing that increased was the recycling. Okay.
Between that and the biweekly.
I didn't hear you.
The biweekly recycling was lower. That would have been the difference for Rumpke. Between the weekly and the biweekly. And feel free to, anyone correct me if I'm mistaken here, because we're looking at a lot of numbers here.
Matt, I think based on what you got up there, we've got enough to move forward.
I think so.
forward with
I was
that.
just trying
We
to
can
be,
talk about it some more,
be
but there's
polite.
4 that are supporting 1, so.
For 2 weeks. 215 a month. For sure.
Rebecca?
I'm curious why, and I don't know who on council recycles, but if we're switching from Republic to Rumpke, in theory, the folks who recycle are going to already have their their recycling bill cut in half with the switch in vendors. But their service will then be reduced if we do it to biweekly. And I understand it's because it is the cheapest option. But don't we want to offer the same service and they're still getting it at half of their current charge? I guess I don't understand why we would go to biweekly when we're saving them 50% a month in that recycling fee.
When you're saying current cost, you mean if we would stay with Republic?
If we were to stay with Republic
Okay.
versus switching to Rumpke, they're going to save, the recycling fee is cut in half for weekly service. So there's not a reduction in service to our residents. And I completely appreciate and understand wanting to make it as cheap as possible. However, they would be saving immediately with that change. That's my rationale for wanting the weekly voluntary, because it's still a 50%, they're saving half immediately on the recycling column by having that weekly option. And I think it would be a service to our residents to continue versus reducing their service.
And it's not, if they do weekly voluntary, it's not increasing it for the people who don't recycle.
Correct. There is no change, as I understand, as we're all reading that. There is no change whatsoever. So it's only a benefit to that 20% of residents. Not only a benefit, it's also, it could potentially remove a barrier from someone who can't afford to recycle right now, but would look at this as an opportunity to choose to recycle. No matter what, they're saving money. I don't see why we need to cut their services down to biweekly. That's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
I would absolutely agree with that. I still support the Republic because I think it's cheaper for the 80%, but I would absolutely agree with you that trash is the same cost. And what you're saying is, that's still a cost reduction for the rest of it. Are the rest of council understanding what we're talking about on that? Was that clear enough that if we're going with Republic, doing the bi-weekly, it is cheaper for recycling, but you're also lowering the services for the citizens. They're only going to get picked up for every other week, so that means that's 2 weeks worth of recycling they're going to have to hold. And it wouldn't matter to the people who didn't recycle because it's the same price for each one of them. So you would still be doing weekly. You could still do weekly, and the people who don't, the 1,400 would get weekly recycling, and the rest of them would still get the same amount. So I guess the only benefit by doing biweekly recycling is if you think you would get more people because of the $2 cheaper a month. I'm not sure if that, no one's mentioned that, but that's the only logical reason I could see by lowering services to do it every other week, in the hopes that some people recycle more, and the 1,400 that already do, do they get charged, Sherry, for an additional recycling can? So I think the people that already recycle weekly, they're probably going to need a second can, which is going to make their prices go up anyway, and they're toting around more recycled material. Again, like I told you before, the staff has we're not the ones getting it, but I just want to make sure everybody understands. Because once we sign the contract, we can't go back for 2 years. Yes, ma'am.
I just really wish there was a way we could ask citizens which one they wanted. I know there's not, but I'm really back and forth about this because I get that. I don't personally have that much recycling, but there's not as many people that live in my house. So I'm really struggling between the biweekly and the weekly recycling because I don't want to take something away from people, but at the same time, I want to go with the lowest cost.
Steve?
I guess your input in there was exactly my thinking is you're getting the lower cost, but it's for the inconvenience of keeping the additional or the recycled material longer. So the real question is how much recycled material do we have per person? And since we don't really have that data, I just strictly went by cost. That's why I chose the biweekly.
Okay. Well, we've got Renee, I don't know if you have, did you say what you wanted? You're the only box I don't have filled in yet.
Man, if I can ask just a question, just for those that are saying basic and biweekly, is everyone still on board with the basic and biweekly? Because if that's the case, there's 4, and then we can just move to municipal order.
I mean, right now, we've got a majority for Rumpke and biweekly, which would be, if somebody would make that motion to move forward with the municipal order, to authorize the mayor to sign a contract with Rumpke for basic and biweekly recycling. I mean, that's the next step here if there's no more discussion. Yes, ma'am?
I just want to make sure that, so we are looking at biweekly right now. We're going to reduce
that's-
service to our residents.
That's the majority
Okay,
that has spoken thus far.
okay.
Unless somebody else makes up, I mean, you can make a motion for Republican weekly and see where it goes. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve.
Yeah, I make a motion for the vote for Rumpke, let me see, I just wrote it down. Rumpke basic and biweekly voluntary services.
Okay, so the vendor would be Rumpke, the service would be basic and bi-weekly voluntary recycling, correct? There's a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
Gary seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Oh, we're just, okay. So we'll just add this into the municipal order. Yeah.
So municipal order of the city of Erlanger.
Mayor, we
Kenton
going to
County.
vote on the motion first?
Is this to create the,
Municipal order, we're into that part then? Okay.
The municipal order of the city of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement for the exclusive use of the public streets and rights-of-way of the city for the collection and disposal of all solid waste from property in the city of collectible solid waste from all residential collections units within the city.
okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor for Rumpke basic and bi-weekly voluntary. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
We're going to need to do a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Skidmore?
The yes would be a vote for Rumpke as the vendor, and the service would be basic trash and bi-weekly voluntary recycling.
No.
Ms. Kyle?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Jasper?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Nipper?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Nicely?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Meyer?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Reckers?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that yes?
Yes.
So that's a tie. That means I break it. And I'm voting no.
All right, that motion failed. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to motion for basic and weekly voluntary with Rumpke as our vendor.
Okay, so the motion is Rumpke as the provider and basic trash with weekly voluntary recycling. Ms. Jasper,
I'm seconding the motion.
second. Yes.
A municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement for the exclusive use of the public streets and rights-of-way of the city for the collection and disposal of all solid waste from the property of the city and the collectible solid waste from all residential collection units within the city.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor for Rumpke, basic, and voluntary weekly recycling. Okay, we're just going to do a roll call vote.
Mr. Skidmore,
No.
Ms. Reckers,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Meyer,
No, ma'am.
Ms. Nicely,
No, ma'am.
Mr. Nipper,
No, ma'am.
Ms. Jasper,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Kyle, Ms. Skidmore. Did you say yes?
Yes, I did say yes.
Motion failed.
You got motion passed? Failed? That's what I got. I thought I misunderstood you.
Well, given as we only had a third option on there, I'll make a motion to have Republic as the service provider with biweekly voluntary recycling.
Okay, we have a
No.
motion. Vicki?
I'm going to second the motion.
Okay.
A municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement for the exclusive use of the public streets and rights-of-way of the city for the collection and disposal of all solid waste from property of the city and collectible solid waste from all residential collection units within the city.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor for Republic Services, basic, bi-weekly voluntary recycling. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Ms.
any
Kyle,
Any other discussion? Sorry. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
Ms. Kyle,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Jasper,
No, ma'am.
Mr. Nipper,
No, no, ma'am.
Ms. Nicely,
No, ma'am.
Mr. Meyer,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Reckers,
No, ma'am.
Mr. Skidmore,
No, ma'am.
Ms. Skidmore.
No, ma'am.
Motion failed.
All right, so those are our three options that have all not made it through. I don't know if council wants to discuss it again, and we need to, July 1st, we need to have trash collection of some type.
Matt, I'm going to make a motion to reconsider my vote on the Rumpke basic and voluntary biweekly recycling.
Okay, so that's Rumpke, basic trash with biweekly voluntary recycling.
Is there a motion or a second? Diana? Okay.
municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement for the exclusive use of the public streets and rights of way of the city for the collection and disposal of all solid waste from the property of the city and collectible solid waste from all residential collection units within the city.
Okay, this is for Rumpke, basic, bi-weekly, voluntary recycling. Any discussion?
Mayor, I just wanted to comment. This seems to be the most, I guess, popular of the three options. So that's the reason that I'm going to be changing my vote to support this one.
I guess if we're in discussion, I'm going to add my 2 cents against my better judgment. As a recycler, bi-weekly is kind of not great. It's going to sit in my garage for 2 weeks. I would rather pay an extra $2.50 a month. That doesn't impact the trash collectors at all. But I don't have a vote in this, so. Any other discussion?
I agree with you about smelling garbage for 2 weeks instead of 1 week.
That's actually great input because we don't really have any data to go with. And since I don't really recycle, that's why my vote for a bi-weekly. For those on council who do recycle, is that the same sentiment? Because I agree with Ms. Reckers and the mayor on the aspect of why inconvenience people who have recycled trash waiting. I didn't know how much, recycling actually goes on. So does anybody have any input here, conversations like the mayor did as far as recycling and
Maybe if I put it in numbers instead of percentage, it might help. So we have approximately 6,500 households that trash is collected at, and approximately 1,400 of those are participating. I mean, I don't know if that helps you or not in regards to numbers.
About.
Yeah, that's a lot. That helps, I guess, put in perspective of what I'm looking at as far as a $2 increase. So
I don't know the amount of tonnage for recycling. I do know that it's increased 20% over the past year. I don't know if that's mainly because of COVID and more people were at home, but I do know that it did increase that much.
So it shows us a trending in recycling. Okay.
Rebecca?
And it's an increase from biweekly to weekly, but it's still a savings of almost $6 a month for anyone who recycles by switching providers. That was my rationale for doing weekly, because it is the only impact to our recyclers is they're saving $6 a month versus getting every other week service as a result of this change.
I just wanted to add something to it. I'm not a recycler, but I appreciate your input because I didn't realize, but I'm not in agreement with people having trash sit around that possibly could cause more problems for the city and critters and smell and stuff. So I understand. I think I would have to change mine to weekly instead of people collecting trash and recyclables and have them sit there for 2 weeks. Thanks.
Mr. Nipper?
Mine the same. I'll reconsider with the Rumpke basic and weekly with the knowledge that I have now of the recycling and the increase that we have with the trending.
Okay. Ms. Jasper?
Same. I'll support the weekly recycling.
Based on the comments, I'd like to withdraw my motion.
You want to withdraw? Okay. Mrs. Reckers?
I'd like to motion for basic and weekly voluntary recycling with Rumpke.
Second.
Did you get the second?
I'll
Sherry?
second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
A municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement for the exclusive use of the public streets and rights-of-way of the city for the collection and disposal of all solid waste from property of the city and collectible solid waste from all residential collection units within the city.
Okay, so this, we have a motion and a second for Rumpke Basic Weekly Voluntary Recycling. We'll do a roll call vote, please. Oh, is there any other discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Reckers,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Meyer,
No, ma'am.
Ms. Nicely,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Nipper,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Jasper,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Kyle,
No, ma'am.
Ms. Skidmore,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Skidmore.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, motion carried. All right, do I entertain a motion that we adjourn? Mrs. Jasper, Mrs. Skidmore, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Motion carried. Have a good evening.